So you think you could help me? Well, I want to learn. And you think 1 year of medical school entitles you to plow the riches of my Emersonian mind?
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
You have no idea about me. You think I'm nothing? Just some socialite?
No, not nothing. I just reserve my time for people that can think about science and literature and art and architecture. You think me cruel, selfish, and unfeeling? I am. I work without caring what happens to either of us. So go back to the club and bear it all. And go stalk the kind of people that you enjoy.
Fine. I will.
Come back when you have more time.
Yes. I saw you change the laws of physics. Could it be that the great Caesar Catalina doesn't obey anything? Not even T-symmetry?
What did you say?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
Sorry, I don't know what that was. So yeah, I saw Megalopolis about a month ago. I'm recording this November 1st, day after Halloween. And it was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. So I saw most of this movie from TikTok. I saw like a lot of clips from TikTok, and I wasn't gonna see it initially because it didn't interest me at all. I kind of didn't really give a fuck. I like Francis Ford Coppola, like I like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, but like that's really all I've seen. But all the clips on TikTok really interested me because the scenes were fucking hilarious. Obviously, there's the Entitles Me scene, there's the boner scene.
What do you think of this boner I got?
There's like everything with Shia LaBeouf. It was like, whoa, this movie is like, it's in so bad it's good territory. And this, of course, piqued the interest of me and my girlfriend. So we went out to see it with her and her friends. And I was, I was dying during this movie, dude. It was fucking hilarious. The thing was the discourse around this movie online that I was starting to get a little, a little interested by. Specifically this video.
So I just got back from watching the movie Megalopolis, and I keep seeing all these reviews from people being like, am I too stupid to understand this movie? The answer is yes. I'm so sorry, but yes, kind of.
For context, when I was 12 years old, I asked my dad if he could buy me a PlayStation, and he put a book in front of me on the table, and he said, if you finish this book, I'll buy you a PlayStation. And that book was The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire.
I don't know how much this guy actually believes what he's saying, but, I mean, no hate, obviously, but this video irked me. As a fellow person who studied, Roman history in Latin, I took Latin for all 4 years of high school. Our school was like not Christian, so I mostly did stuff about Rome. We translated Julius Caesar's Gallic campaign. So this video bothered the fuck out of me because I was like, okay, this guy, I mean, how pretentious can you get? Like, you don't understand Megalopolis because of you don't understand Roman history, and you haven't heard of the Catilinarian conspiracy. So I decided to dig deep. And I want to say that this movie, this movie does not retell the Catilinarian conspiracy. So, and we'll get into that more later. And I want to get into like the more actual Roman history and like sort of diving deep and how this movie does not reflect it at all. I think the biggest thing of this movie is that the main character is supposed to be Francis Ford Coppola. He identifies with Catiline, the historical figure Catiline, mostly because Catiline was in debt and not much else. I wondered whether the traditional portrayal of Catiline as evil and Cicero as good was necessarily true. In history, Catiline lost and was killed, and Cicero survived. But since the survivor tells the story, I wondered, what if what Catiline had in mind for his new society was a realignment of those in power and could have even in fact been visionary and good, while Cicero perhaps could have been reactionary and bad? So he's just like, okay, what if Catiline got the consulship in Rome instead of Cicero? And then Catiline gets to be the one who rewrites history. The basic idea is there, because Cicero was looked upon very favorably by Roman historians at that time, Plutarch, namely, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Cicero wasn't like the greatest dude ever, because Cicero, he said it himself that this was the greatest accomplishment of his political career, was stopping Catiline from killing him. By the way, the Catilinarian conspiracy is this dude Catiline was running for consulship, which is kind of like the president of the Roman Republic. So Catiline lost, and Cicero found word of this through rumors. A lady named Fulvia, another dude named Crassus. But he basically had him killed without a trial, which is usually not good and goes against the idea of what a republic should be. Like, people have a fair right to a trial. Cicero kind of went over that and said, this guy is directly conspiring to kill me. I'm going to have him killed before he can do anything. And that's what he did. And this was sort of controversial. Julius Caesar most certainly didn't like it. But, what actually happens in Megalopolis is... I'm trying. This movie is hard. The plot is hard to talk about. What basically happens in Megalopolis is Caesar Catalina, the main character, played by Adam Driver. Oh, by the way, this is going to be spoilers for this movie, in case you care at all. But Caesar Catalina, he basically becomes friends with Cicero by the end. He also discovers this weird thing. What the fuck is it called? Basically, he wants to make a society that's like for creative artist people, and he uses this abstract weird mineral that he has, and he's like an architect, a genius architect, and he's able to like restructure the society and make Megalopolis, make a utopia. And this is pulled a lot from Francis Ford Coppola's own life. I think this YouTube video, it's a great video by Be Kind Rewind. It's a great summation of all the history of like what went into this production and how long it took. And that Coppola was basically working on this for like 40 years because he read this book, 12 Against the Gods by William Bolitho. And there's a chapter on Catiline, and it talks about Catiline and sort of how he's depicted in this certain light. Cicero was looked much more favorably on in history. Like fucking Catiline was looked at as fucking Donald Trump, basically. And Cicero was looked at big-brained man. So basically, he started this thing called Zoetrope Studios, and it failed, and he had a bunch of like sort of failed movies with that. He made that basically after he made The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, when he had his like big run of really good movies. And it just shows he's a really chaotic filmmaker. There were a lot of problems. If you know anything about Apocalypse Now, there were like a shit ton of problems on set. You know, fucking people dying, people getting sick, filming in this crazy area in the Philippines, I think. And this did not stop. Like, this was like he wanted to circumvent around union rules with his productions and stuff like that. What this comes down to is this is a story that he made about himself. That Catiline is him, that Caesar Catalina is him, and the whole world is like Hollywood studios trying to stop him from fulfilling his dream, which is kind of how it's sort of meta, like, because that's how he made this movie in and of itself, because no studio would pay for it because it was so strange, and it's like really long and probably shouldn't have been made. But this motherfucker sold a portion of his pretty famous wine company, the Coppola wine farms, to make this movie with like a over $200 million budget. And keep in mind, Francis Ford Coppola is like 80 at the time of like deciding to make this and start this production. To some degree, you have to respect it, but to another, you gotta be like, okay, this is the most pretentious thing ever. Maybe not ever, but like, this movie is so silly, and it takes itself very seriously, and it's super self-important. You gotta respect it that he got it made, but at the same time, I think there is some damage that is being done by just how pretentious this movie is. And we're gonna get into it. All right, so, you know, this guy in this TikTok video is talking about, like, you know, I had the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, a Roman Empire. You know, my dad put it on my desk, and I had to read it. Oh man, and that's the reason I understand this movie, because this movie is so accurate to Roman history. And also, Shakespeare made a play called Julius Caesar that's about this too. Which there's Shakespeare in this. There's Shakespeare in this movie, right? In fact, all of To Be or Not to Be from Hamlet, not from Julius Caesar, is in it for some reason. Also, oh man, that To Be or Not to Be, I could not believe he put that in the movie. Like, the first lines his main character fucking says, the main character based off of himself, is To Be or Not to Be, the greatest speech ever written. But I just want to go through each character and say, like, who they were in history and see how accurate it really was. So we'll start off with Caesar Catalina, or the guy Adam Driver plays, who's the main character. Reading off of a certain website, that is very reliable with sources. Adam Driver as Caesar Catalina, a futuristic architect and the chairman of the design authority in New Rome, blessed with the ability to stop time. Okay, what's that? Like, what's going on? Okay, first of all, he conflates Caesar and Catiline. Two different people. Caesar actually kind of supported Catiline-ish. Caesar thought this was actually unjustified. This guy's supposed to have a trial, and he didn't think that he should just be instantly sentenced to death just because Cicero invoked the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, which is sort of like a almost kind of like martial law type thing when he knows there's a plot to kill him. And yeah, Caesar basically is like, this is an abuse of power, and you have to give this guy a fair trial. And I also don't think you should straight up kill him. You should just give him life in prison. And this was actually swaying a lot of the Senate at the time. And Cicero decided to go through the Senate to do this because technically he could just have him killed. Cicero's big fucking brain. Like, Cicero like goes through the Senate, and then he also has a legal defense too if the murder is looked on less fondly in the future. He's like, well, the Senate approved it at the time, so that's what we decided to do. And Julius Caesar was like, no, let's like not do this. Let's give this guy a fair trial. That's the point of a republic. Homeboy Cato the Younger is like one of the last people who speaks, fucking orates his ass off and kind of saves Cicero's ass. And he basically talks about, no, we gotta stop this guy. This is the fall of the Roman Republic. Like, this guy could end it. It could start another civil war in Rome. We don't want that shit to happen again because that could totally destroy our country because we're already in a place of strife and difficulty. And so, yeah, Cato the Younger actually sways most of the Senate, sort of saving Cicero in the eyes of history because the Senate was starting to go with Julius Caesar, who was beginning to gain power at the time through his multiple campaigns. And then, you know, obviously we'll come back to Julius Caesar later at the time of the fall of the Roman Republic, which is what Shakespeare wrote about in his play Julius Caesar. But this is the Catilinarian conspiracy happens before that. And this is, you know, Cicero's finest hour. Cicero thinks that this is the best thing he ever did. And then eventually Catiline was like trying to build up his armies, but like Cicero got on it quick and he was able to, he was killed in a military campaign. Catiline was killed in a military campaign later. So yeah, he conflates Caesar Catalina as one person. What are you trying to say with this movie? Like, do you want... That's what I'm confused about, because Caesar becomes dictator later of Rome. And that's probably what Catiline would have become. But it sounds like Coppola thinks that he's going to restructure it and make it into a better thing. Like, do you want a republic? Do you want a democracy? Or do you want a philosopher king, Plato philosopher king situation? Like, I don't really understand. And it's not entirely clear in the movie, at least to me, at least to watching, like, and through all my research. Basically, Coppola comes down to, like, utopia is possible. We can have a great place run by artists. So let's do that, man. So it's him. And then there's Cicero in the actual movie who's like, he's like not progressive. He's like conservative, but he ends up teaming up with Caesar at the end, which is very confusing. It's Giancarlo Esposito. I guess he was like, he's supposed to be like Rudy Giuliani, I think, or something like that. Or one of the mayors of New York before. He's sort of like conservative and he doesn't want things to change. And Caesar Catalina also fucks his daughter, Julia. Julia, I don't know. I've researched this movie, guys. Like, I don't know who this is supposed to be. I think it was Julius Caesar had a kid. I think it was Julia. But she died. I don't remember. And it's not clear in this movie who it's supposed to be. And now to say Julius Caesar was a good guy and was a good for Rome, you know, because he was basically the fall of the Roman Republic and the fall of democracy, making it into sort of an empire again. And he nearly destroyed the Roman Empire until his son-ish came along. Basically Caesar II, who is Octavian, came along, and that's even later. Oh yeah, and then Claudio Pulcher, who's played by Shia LaBeouf. Looking into it a little bit more, it is kind of accurate to what he does in the movie. Pulcher basically sort of falsely accuses him of hooking up with the Vestal Virgin, who is like a pop star in this thing. And he like shops a video of him. Shia LaBeouf shops a video of Adam Driver having sex with a Vestal Virgin, which you're not allowed to do, man. And Pulcher kind of did the same thing with Catiline. So I guess that's kind of accurate. He went against Catiline, which is cool. That character's super goofy and he's really horny. Keep in mind, Catiline wanted to murder Cicero. He wanted to assassinate him. In this movie, he's looked at, Catiline's looked at as this, like, you know, good dude, man. He's a good dude. You know, he's just trying to make the world better. He has this cool mineral called Megalon. That's what the fuck it's called. I'm gonna use Megalon to fix this world, man. Different. These are different things. Murdering the president to then become the dictator of a country is very different than being oppressed because people think you have too big of ideas. Yeah, there's more shit about Pulcher, but whatever. It's fucking Shia LaBeouf plays him. Who cares? Fuck Shia LaBeouf, by the way. And there's Crassus too. Crassus was another ally of Cicero-ish. He was like part of the Senate. Also, he was rich. Also, the next thing that pisses me off personally, I'm a theater student, man. Okay, I'm a theater major. I said this to be or not to be monologue while doing a slow squat, okay? We did that multiple times a week. I was like squatting down very slowly, eccentric movement.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream.
Why does he say that? Why does he say that? Why are that the first lines that come out of Adam Driver's fucking mouth? It made me so mad. It was like Shakespeare, man. You know, Shakespeare.
For in that sleep of death where dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
It was really dumb. It was really dumb, and I really didn't like it. And we're supposed to look at this guy like he's the genius of this movie. Like he's the super smart mad scientist using Megalon, making a fucking utopia. But yeah, man, that doesn't make your shit Shakespeare. Like, why is to be or not to be there? To be or not to be is, it's an existential crisis, basically. Basically, it's like, life's really hard, man. I've been going through really difficult times. This is what Hamlet is thinking this. I've been going through really difficult times. My dad is dead. My uncle's trying to take the throne. My uncle's fucking my mom. I can't do anything about it, and I'm sad. What does this have to do with what's happening in the movie? Caesar Catalina comes in. He's like, yo, man, let's make I got this idea. I'm from the design authority. Let's make this city better. We can make it into a utopia. We can make it into a fucking megalopolis. So we can make a megalopolis out of this shit. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows. Like, what are we talking about? What does this have to do with fucking Megalopolis, bro? Let's get a fucking Jokeropolis up in this bitch. What does this have to do with that? It's just pretentious for no reason. What I don't like is that he's morphing history to fit into a personal narrative. I am this dude. I am Catiline. So, yeah, you have to listen to me now. This will lead us to our next part, but this is a classic trap. It's writing about yourself. There's this great blog I like by this guy, this dude, Erich Bork. We writers understand our thought processes, desires, issues, life situations, etc. so intimately that it can be extremely hard to put ourselves in the shoes of someone who doesn't, and to clue them into those things the way that we would if it was a fictional story. We tend to leave a lot off the page because it's so basic and obvious to us, but not to the reader. And then it becomes hard for them to process and engage with the story. Classic issue. I've had this problem. I write relatively personal things. You gotta serve the story at the end of the day. And it's a really easy trap to fall into. If you're shoehorning yourself in, like Coppola is trying to do with this, you will fall into a lot of traps. And it will make your shit seem pretentious. And you will flip history and make inaccurate judgments in making your magnum opus, Megalopolis. I'm a super successful director who has some trouble making movies sometimes. I'm just like Catiline, the Roman conspirator. I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm Cicero or Julius Caesar, man. I'm not that arrogant, but I'm definitely this other guy from history. Like now. Okay, I want to move on to symbolism and themes and stuff in this movie. So there's it is overdosing on themes and symbolism, and it's all my problem with it is it's so I'm 15 and this is deep, you know. It's like, dude, we could have a utopia, man. You know, if we let artists run this shit, we could have a utopia, bro. And you know, obviously the big symbols being his own life, Francis Ford Coppola making his own personal thing. It being Roman history too, and all these characters being a symbol for people in Roman history. Also things like anti-cancel culture with Pulcher trying to cancel Caesar Catalina and, you know, photoshopping him on the Vestal Virgins.
You can cancel me for that, I don't care. It's just my opinion. Go ahead and cancel me.
It's just given really like white dude from the 1970s type movie. Also stuff like he has time stop, which is very silly. Like, why does he have that ability? He never uses it in the plot. It's like some abstract thing that I guess he has. I took it as that's Coppola being like, that's me, bro. I can't stop time. I gotta get Megalopolis made right now. And so does Caesar Catalina. He's gotta make that fucking Megalopolis, bro. He needs to stop time so he can make it. It's just dumb. It's just dumb, is it not? Like, so yeah, and I want to get into a show that I think does it really well. It's very similar. It samples history in a similar way. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Fucking love that show. It's an anime, guys. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's an anime. I don't know if anime watchers watch this, but you should watch this show. It's a great show. The two main characters, Edward Elric and his brother Alphonse Elric, they're alchemists. They're state alchemists, and they work for the military in this country, Amestris, which is like sort of double for a Western superpower. It's closest related to Nazi Germany. The Führer runs it, is the dictator. Führer King Bradley. And yeah, it's really this whole plot is revealed, and they have to overthrow the government. It's all stuff. Before the series starts, they genocided these people, the Ishvalans. And it's like really close to actual history. Like, it's a pretty direct, on the nose. First episode, they're like, this dude's the Führer.
You can cancel me for that, I don't care. It's just my opinion. Go ahead and cancel me.
Like, whoa, the Führer? Like, whoa. These guys are Nazis that we're following? And it's like, yes, they are. Don't take that clip out of context. And it's done so well because the ideas are really strong. The whole plot behind it is that, spoilers, by the way, the homunculi who run this, they want to use alchemy to their advantage, which is kind of like science/magic of the world, but it's still science because there's a law of equivalent exchange that you have to give something equally valuable to what you receive to reform. That's like the first law of alchemy. They want to use alchemy for their advantage, basically sacrificing people, killing people, so they can gain a lot of power. And this, spoiler, backfires. What's so great about the show is like there is no pervading ideology like scientism or being fervently religious or anything else that is the answer. Like that's the ultimate answer and the ultimate way to gain power. Shout out Wisecrack for that OG Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood philosophy video. That's where I pull a lot of these ideas from. It's so solid because the ideas are so solid. And the writer, Arakawa, is that her name? Arakawa, yes. She's a goat. And she has such solid ideas. It's like, and it's in the first episode. Like in the first thing that they do. They try to get their mom back. It's fucking heartbreaking. They try to bring their mom back to life using alchemy. And the law of equivalent exchange backfires. This devotion to science, this devotion to, all this stuff, trying to use it to be all powerful. It's a zero-sum game at the end of the day. And we know it from the first episode to the end. Which is fucking, man, it's good. Oh man, it's good. That's some strong themes right there, boy. Megalopolis doesn't have that. No strong themes, nothing really coming back. Time stop. Okay, what does the time stop do? It has no relevance to the plot. Like, it's just not good symbolism, man. It's like theme and ideas for the sake of themes and ideas and symbols. And again, it's just very self-important, man. Like, God. Another meme that was like a part of this, I was seeing a lot, was Peter Griffin, ironically talking about The Godfather, saying it insists on itself.
What didn't you like about it?
It insists upon itself, Lois.
What?
It insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
Was that a good Peter Griffin? It insists on itself. It insists on itself, Lois. my girlfriend hates when I do that Peter Griffin impression. Yeah, it does insist on itself. It really insists on itself, man. I think being pretentious is bad. A hot take, I guess. But, like, Coppola was like, he's like, fuck it, man. I'm going to go for it and make this movie. Which I do respect at the end of the day. We'll come back to that. That's another part of this. But it's not good. And you can tell it's just a lot of arrogance going into this movie. There's a bunch of other production problems too. I think it was the post-production people quitting. A lot of production people quitting, leaving. He's had a history of this too, going around circumventing unions and the other thing in Apocalypse Now, and just trying to do what he can to get the movie done. And you can smell it. You can smell the arrogance. What I'm doing is much more important than what anyone else thinks. And, you know, that's good in some senses of it overcomes the studios. I think that's a good thing overall, because studios are predatory and greedy. But at the same time, you know, it overcomes the people you actually work with at the same time. You know, it kind of goes against being collaborative and working with people, like he kind of says his ideals are.
Hey, yo!
I was thinking about the Men Think About Rome, and he made a video or something about that too. He's like, I think about Rome all the time because I'm making this movie called Megalopolis, and it's about Rome, the fall of Rome. Like, it's so white and male centered. It really is. I mean, the female characters in this movie are a joke. Almost every scene is them sexualizing themselves. Definitely don't pass no Bechdel test. Even though Bechdel test is kind of a meme, but like still, like you can sense it. It's like the women are so sexifying themselves, they're having sex in every scene, you know. She's like, look, Julia is like the pure girl who's like helpful to Caesar, while Aubrey Plaza, WoW Platinum, her character is like the slut lady. Oh man. You know, it's just like these old tropes. It's just like so 1970s white dude movie. It really stinks of that, man. Which is like, so I want my thing made. I want it my way. I like collaboration, me personally. I think taking people's ideas is really important because that's what makes a movie. It's like a bunch of moving parts. There's a bunch of other shit. You can't have control over everything, even as a director. But it's clear that he wanted that. So, dude, what pissed me off researching this is I found out he's like quoting, he's like, a couple books that went into the making of Megalopolis was David Graeber. His like trilogy of Debt and Bullshit Jobs. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that. He's like, Bullshit Jobs is a part of this movie? In what way? Check out my video on Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber, by the way. What are we talking about? Like, what does having a bullshit job have to do with what you're talking about? And how can you even say that you agree with David Graeber and his socialism? Like, when you are like such a fucking wiener and like running around unions and like, you know, abusing your fucking, making horrible working environments with the lowly production people. Like, ugh, it's just so gross. I hate like that. Like, ugh, my vision is so important. Like, you have some of that as a director for sure. Confidence / arrogance, but like, it's just so obvious. It's just so painfully obvious to me in this movie that this was like, a lot of this was very self-serving. It reminds me a lot of Tommy Wiseau in the Room. Tommy Wiseau was a guy who wants complete control of the movie, no matter how ridiculous his requests are. You know, he just wants to get it made in his way, in his certain way, which made it into a goofy, so bad it's good movie. Like, you can tell when there's that stink of white man arrogance. Let's be honest. I say that as a half white guy myself, so don't be too mad, white people. I'm taking no notes. I'm just going to make this the way that I want to make it, even with all the problems that it has. Which, I'll come to my other conclusion, which is, you got to kind of respect it. He completely did it himself. I kind of like what Justin Chang had to say about it, even though I disagree with him. From the New Yorker. What is unescapably moving about Megalopolis is the degree to which it has evolved into an allegory of its own making. Coppola has made a defense of the beautiful and the impractical as art-sustaining forces in the cinema itself. The mere fact that it exists in its breathtaking and sometimes exasperating singularity feels like an expression of hope. Yeah, it kind of does. It's like, I sat on this project for 40 years. It's not good. But I made a bunch of movies and then started a successful wine business, and then sold part of the wine business so I could make this movie that's all about me. And you gotta respect that a little bit. And I'm a filmmaker myself. It's been a while since I've made a film. It's been a minute. But I'm a filmmaker myself, and I gotta respect it. I gotta respect that he got it made. He paid for it all himself. I mean, he did it all himself. So did Tommy Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau completely funded this fucking movie himself. No studios gave The Room money. Oh my god. Besides that, it's a bad movie. We can't pretend like this is something smart. No. It's dumb. He made this Lionsgate commercial too. This like fabricated this fabricated commercial with a lot of fake quotes about The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, which were both received very well by critics at the time. Like people like panning it, assuming that Megalopolis was gonna get panned in the same way, and then later would be looked on as a masterpiece. This'll never be a masterpiece, sir. You are an arrogant fellow, and you got your big old movie made because you had your big old pockets, and you got your big old money, and you were able to pay for it. And I respect you for spending a lot of money on it. At the same time, your ideas are weak, your movie is weak, and the pretension is off the charts. People, maybe white guys in particular, thinking that they're better than people because they get this movie. I mean, give me a fucking break. He himself is feeding into Hollywood and that mindset. I'm more educated than you, I'm smarter than you, so I got this movie made, and therefore it's really important and everyone should listen to it. So, you know, try to avoid making things that are completely indulgent. Maybe. Just maybe. Give it a shot. Alright, I sat here and yapped my butt off. Thank you for watching this video. These are my thoughts on Megalopolis. Yeah, man. Be inspired. And I guess don't listen to Jordan Peterson either, guys. Just a random thing to bring up.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
I'm Adam Driver.